Well, nice to see you, Mr. Darby. Let me ask you first. We're here. The negotiations are finally underway. You outlined 4 pillars that the CME were looking for in the negotiations. Are you optimistic that any or all of these can be achieved, or do you think that the most important thing, which is one of your pillars, is not to give up any access we have now, but other than that, there may not be much that is achievable?
I think, first of all, because manufacturing is so important, 75% of all our exports are manufactured goods, the idea of making sure we have access, and not just for Canadian companies, for Canadian, American, and Mexican companies, to the current market is critical. The supply chains are integrated, and it's most important that that business continues, at least at a minimum.
So in a sense, that's for us, though, kind of defensive rather than offensive. Is it to protect what we have now?
Yes, it could be seen as defensive, but it's also fundamental to the economy. And what we really need to ask for is to modernize this agreement and to bring it into the 21st century. And I think that's one of the pillars that we have on our list, is how to make NAFTA be reflective of our integrated, networked world, including the idea of having rules to allow people to transfer across the border uninhibited, who are part of the new age software engineers. 25 years ago, there wasn't such a thing as a software engineer, and now manufacturing companies need to send them across the border to install or improve or fix equipment.
So when you're talking about eliminating barriers that still exist in NAFTA, is it those kind of things you're thinking about, or is it are there other things like maybe government procurement or something like that also you would like to see improved?
Well, sure. From the point of view, manufacturers are free traders by and large, and they really want to look at ways to have uninhibited, non-tariff barriers removed. Things like whether it's Buy America or even Buy Canada, those are really barriers to the open market. And we think that both sides should strive to get that out of the agreement. We understand for things like defense, the U.S. has very strict rules about who supplies its defense procurements. But by and large, it should be an open market. And those are the kind of things that we'd like to change, as well as regulatory harmonization. Really, the fact that we have to have things approved by 3 different countries. If it's approved by one country in NAFTA, it should be approved by all 3 countries. So those are the kind of things, those getting rid of the red tape, I guess, is the way to look at it.
You talked to, and I read your newspaper articles, you want to leverage NAFTA, all 3 countries in the North American Free Trade Agreement, leverage that against countries that aren't in NAFTA. So are you talking about a customs union rather than the way NAFTA is now, or are there other things you have in mind?
Well, I think a customs union might be a bit of a stretch at this point. But the administration in the U.S. in its sort of list of priorities, and in what we've talked about in Canada, really talking about how to use NAFTA, the combined power of NAFTA, to go after countries that practice unfair trade practices, dumping, currency manipulation. Right now, Canada can't really do that on its own. But combined with the U.S. and Mexico, the NAFTA region can be much more powerful to deal with those countries that send goods that are unfairly subsidized or are dumped into the region. So I think there's an opportunity. It may not be a customs union, but it's a step towards a more coordinated North American approach.
You made the point in your articles that Chapter 19, which is the dispute settlement mechanism, has to be maintained. I've been noticing the language of the government, the Canadian government. They talk about a dispute settlement mechanism being maintained, but they don't call it Chapter 19. And I'm wondering if maybe there's some kind of, it's going to be a semantic difference, but as long as the dispute settlement mechanism is there, does it have to be called Chapter 19, or you can call it anything you want?
I think you can call it whatever you like, Don. At the end of the day, having an independent third party to review trade disputes where each of the countries, especially the smaller countries, can be assured that it's independent of one country's national interest, is clear. Call it Chapter 19, call it whatever you want. In our modern free trade agreements in CETA, in TPP, even with Korea, we have trade dispute systems in place. If the U.S. doesn't want to call it Chapter 19, that's fine. What we need is that independent third party.
Mr. Darby, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Don.